Nice. But again, echo now, eh? So whatever we do, we get back. I hear him myself with a little echo, but not. Yeah, with a little echo. So the may get like that. Oh boy. But you may hear the echo, eh? Lennox might be here, may not echo. Yeah, he might be here, may not echo. So whatever we do just now, because we can make it if we try. Dress a little harder. If you dress one more time, it will be no right, no echo. We can make it if we try. Dress a little harder. If you just take one more time, and life will be much sweeter. Yeah, we can make it if we try. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Dress a little harder. The people could sing, boy. No echo. No echo. They hear me nice now. Jeff. Nice. Going in. Nice. A pleasant good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Time check. It's approximately 21 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. And you're listening to the Ground Report. Yours truly, the Pitbull of Radio, and Lennox Smith in studio. Let me say a pleasant good morning to Director Snipes. A pleasant good morning to you, Lennox Smith. And all, a pleasant good morning to you all. Nice. Oh,
because you've been able to through 91.1 Talk City, able to reach us. Well, that other number is 239-5120, 239-5120, and of course the WhatsApp. You, as usual, we have put in that as part of the program, where of course we take your voicemails, we call it, and that number is 366 053. 3663053. WhatsApp only, however, WhatsApp only, and we will play your voices or your concerns, if you want to call that a voice. Manifested in concerns or vice versa, but the fact of the matter is that you will get your concerns aired as well. So you may not have had the opportunity to or the time to, of course, call in, and therefore we have provided an additional opportunity for all and sundry to participate. The fact that we are on Talk City 91.1 is another effort to reach as much as we can, and therefore at your convenience, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. every workday, Monday to Friday, until, of course, something else pops up. Of course, as usual, I was on the corridor transformation last night, and I want to say, yes, it was a truncated one, shortened, but because, of course, of the tragedy that occurred Christmas morning, being the first murder of the year, occurring, of course, on George Street, where we are based, but more significantly, the victim would have been of someone well known to me and part of the love movement, so to speak, which is, of course, part of the collision of interest in that aspect of the arrangement between the UNC and the other entities, including, of course, love. That any criminal association, these persons have the option of going to the Dominican government, having accepted them with an arrangement or agreement with the United States. So that's essentially what that is all about. Trump wants total access to Venezuela. That is something we can extrapolate. I know we had a very heated debate yesterday on that particular subject, and some people describe them as, of course, being in a state of cognitive dissonance, so where, of course, when they couldn't get their way, they then, of course, settle for the lesser and, of course, less vociferous position that they would have taken originally in the particular subject of the United States and its hegemony or its dominance, and, of course, the manifestation or the execution of what the United States and the world knows is called the Monroe Doctrine, where, of course, the United States believe that the Western Hemisphere it is is its domain of influence, and therefore will tolerate, especially what they consider their enemy or who they consider their enemies. They will not tolerate them in this part of the world. And of course, Trinidad and Tobago, being part of the Western Hemisphere, is also part and parcel of that sphere of consistent with, of course, the Monroe Doctrine many, many decades ago. Declared by the United States. Trump wants, of course, total access, as I said, to Venezuela. Another El Pecos blast, a lawsuit closer to trial. Well, you know, some time ago there was this blast at one of this, it's supposed to be a relatively well-known restaurant chain, and unfortunately a blast took place, and of course there's some in the courts, and they're saying that another several of this. I see that Andy appears to try to get it. Is trying to get in, but it seems as though we are getting some snippets as opposed to audible Andy. All right, we will continue. Yes, a vehicle examiner awarded a little later. Our home store closed in Shutmas, and of course, the movie town Tobago shuts down. These are two establishments, well known, and they have closed the shop in those areas. Not that they have totally closed down, because I know Movies Town is still operating, in spite of its challenges down at in the west there in Trinidad. But of course, that in Tobago has closed down. I think it would have been the only major mall, I think, in Tobago it was operating from, but has closed down because of several issues that affects their bottom line, because you're going to business to make money, not to lose money, and therefore, of course, the level at which you will tolerate losses is a very, very finite and limited. And so, of course, the time has come, as far as the decision makers in those institutions are concerned, to close up shop, and of course the public will, I suppose, or regular customers or persons who would normally access that service or those services would no longer have them, except of course to go to places. That being as it may, pensioner chopped in Toko home invasion, so that continues to be another bugbearer. That's another issue probably we can look at this morning as well, but I want to get in on it, and yes, of course, and as soon as that happens, we will engage. But of course, at this point in time, we go for a break, and when we come back, more on this edition of the Ground Report on, of course, City 91.1.
From your TV, laptop, your phone, your tablet, news, culture, conversations, and the stories that move us. Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago Today. Your morning with me, Famala Balkaran, starts here. Trinidad and Tobago Today premieres Monday, 12th January, 6 a.m., exclusively on TTT.
To immerse yourself in the vibrant rhythms and the joyous spirit of sweet calypso. Join us for an unforgettable experience at the semi-final round of the Calypso Monarch competition. This is Calypso Fiesta. 40 Calypso stars will compete on the Skinner Park stage. Calypso Unleashed, boundless harmonies. Mark your calendars. Saturday, February 7th, 2026. Join us at Skinner Park in San Fernando for an afternoon of pure Calypso magic. Showtime 2 p.m. Tickets available on islandetickets.com or call us at 623-9660. Don't miss out on a chance to experience the rhythm and joy of the Caribbean in 2026. Calypso Unleashed, boundless harmony. This is Calypso Fiesta.
Calling all culture lovers. Are you ready to Talk City 91.1 FM.
days I'm searching, but I don't know what I'm searching for. Some days I'm dreaming, like I don't want to feel no more. Sometimes I'm pretending, but I'm putting up a smile for you. Don't know the meaning, no reason. So you can go crazy, all in different ways. These days I'm fighting, who I'm really fighting for. Some days I'm working, feel like I don't want to work no more. These days the doctor doesn't anymore. Still don't know the meaning or the reason that I'm working for. Craving all in different ways. And I still don't know what I'm searching for. Then I started believing in peace of mind. Now I'm supposed to see with my head and see it. But breathing again.
availability of arms and ammunition, and all of the things that would have facilitated our high crime rate, being, of course, a small country and with 5 So 622-4911, 622-4911. All right, let me get back to some of, well, the main issue that I want to discuss. Purpose they might have been involved. I'm talking about the aspect of the indictment in the United States of both Maduro and his wife, with respect, of course, to the exporting into the United States of drugs and narcotics, etc. And that the, the indictment suggests that there have been complicit some of these leaders. And immediately when that issue was raised yesterday, I threw my mind back, or my mind automatically went back to the fact on two matters. One was the presence of, for which we have not gotten an entire or complete or viable or acceptable explanation as to the presence of Delcy Rodriguez, the now sworn-in president, in replacing, of course, Maduro in Venezuela. But she was here during COVID. Remember that? With a delegation from PDVSA. And of course, we learned later on that it was a sanctioned plane as well. And ostensibly and initially, the administration, the Rowley-led administration under the PNM, did tell us that she were here dealing with and being responsible for COVID. Of course, only PDVSA officials were there. And from Trinidad and Tobago side, not even Dial Singh, the then Minister of Health, was part and parcel of those discussions. So that the issue really is, for what and why was such a meeting organized, having regard to the fact that COVID was around, and therefore, at that point in time, just as sanitizing and people were supposed to be social distancing, that was the term that emerged coming out of that exercise. One still wonders why it is, with all the technology around, that she had to physically be in Trinidad. That question has not yet been answered. Let me repeat. When at a time when our own citizens were being told, stay in place, you can't come back to Trinidad, Barbados had to accept some of them because they were so close and yet far. They were, of course, running out of money and all of that in order to protract their stay outside of Trinidad. Here it is, Delcy Rodriguez was invited in, accommodated, ostensibly on the basis of some kind of responsibility she would have had in Venezuela for COVID. But all of the evidence suggests that it could not have been, because Dial Singh wasn't in the meetings and there were no specialists, if you want to call that, no person of a medical nature except PDVSA, which of course, PDVSA is the oil company of Venezuela, the national oil company, the government oil company in Venezuela. And yet still we were told that. And I recall very distinctly that just after she would have made her departure, talking about the Delcy Rodriguez on that sanctioned plane, we had the situation where our own oil, or should I say, energy importing entity, Paria, from there, a shipment of fuel, destined for some island off Venezuela, suddenly ended up in the domain or in the hands of Venezuela, of the Venezuelan administration. And the Rowley administration said their explanation was that, listen, we sell it to somebody, we are custom selling it. Of course, we learned that that was an aberration, that was not normal to sell it outside of CARICOM, sell fuel by Paria outside of CARICOM. And yet still, that shipment ended up in Venezuela. And therefore, what came to the fore, and anybody with a modicum of common sense would say, well, there is more in the mortar than the pestle. And I remember very distinctly when we were in another place, another radio station, we did raise the issue. And when we raised the issue, we received a pre-action protocol letter from Stuart Young, because we felt it very strange that here it is, our citizens have been left out, have been kept out of coming back home, but there's still this sanction, and then of course this shipment of fuel ended up in Venezuela. That Paria said it was destined for, I think, Margarita, or one of those islands. And we then started, of course, just to speculate and started to analyze. And as a result of that, the then Gary Sobers, and I think he still ended up being the Gary Sobers, except that he lost all his wickets and all his men because he had a very truncated stint as Prime Minister, talking about Stuart Young, decided to, of course, send us a pre-action protocol letter. I'll bring it sometime to just glean from it some of the details. But the fact of the matter is that here it is that we were sent a pre-action protocol letter saying that we are defaming him, calling him, of course, a drug runner, a racketeer, etc., and therefore that should be the subject of some kind of judicial consideration, investigation, because, of course, it nestles or it settles in the area of defamation. Yes, so we were accused of that. 3-page, I can remember very distinctly, a 3-page letter, and we were not just appalled and upset, and even when we went to certain legal so-called luminaries, they said, well, listen, this is
you ain't easy, man. You're letting them know, boy, Lennox Smith,
in the administration, and therefore the kind of money you only had to spend in order to extricate or to get representation is one that that send shivers not only down my spine, but also that of Andy. And Andy, I didn't know Andy was such a coward, even though he called himself a pit bull.
Shivers like that, man.
All right, good. All right, well, we will continue with this discussion, and hopefully we will get Andy back on. And don't forget, let me just leave the number with you just in case. You can get me here, get us here, right here on Talk City, 622-4911, 622-4911. You can get us here. The other numbers, I think you know, but of course we don't have access to Andy at this point in time. So see you after the break, and we will continue with this I consider it very interesting discussion.
This is TDT News on the TDT Limited Media Network on Talk City 91.1 FM.
Good morning, this is your TTT News Update. I'm Charlene Lewis making the news at this time. Trinidad and Tobago's ambassador to the United States, Dr. Neil Parson, says this country remains equally committed to maintaining its relationship with both the United States of America and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. In a brief statement to the United Nations Security Council on Monday, Dr. Parson highlighted this country's position in the wake of the recent events in Venezuela.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago, while valuing its long-standing and robust partnership with the United States, remains equally committed to maintaining a constructive and respectful relationship with the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and continues to uphold peaceful relations with the people of Venezuela.
On Saturday, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were taken from Venezuela by United States forces.
As a Caribbean nation, a neighbor of Venezuela, and a long